What is long-term addiction treatment? This implies rehab. So a person who is engaged in active drug use and can't get out of it, it takes time to quit and to stay quit. So they could try to abstain in the beginning, but what typically happens with most drug users who are involved in a higher level of addiction cannot cope with some sort of stress in life, some sort of trauma that happens, and they end up resorting back to using the drug. So the way to have treatment for this is a long-term solution. This increases the chances of an enduring long-term recovery. I am currently myself in long-term recovery, and so what I do personally is the same things I would recommend for other people, and it's not that complicated. It also turns out that the same things that are important for recovery also helps with a person's degree of happiness. So these are the same things. So long-term treatment, yes, involves abstinence, and in the beginning a person might need to go on opioid replacement, or for alcohol they would go on another medication to help treat that with the short-term withdrawal syndromes associated with it. With the other drugs of abuse, they don't need to really get on any form of medication. Some people do use cannabis as a bridging medication to alleviate the discomfort of withdrawal. But once they're through this hard time and they are no longer dependent on their drug of choice and can start functioning in their life, then it's time to go into some form of long-term treatment. And in this situation, some people need rehab. They need to get away from the stresses of life and to be buffered away from all of this, and in a safe community of other people who are involved in the same thing, and to learn in this environment ways of coping with life stresses without their crutch. There are many things that are learned in rehab. Now, rehab can be inpatient or outpatient, but inpatient is the safest one, and long-term would mean 3 months at least. This is the most effective way for people to unlearn the habits that they developed that led to their addiction in the first place. The things that are learned in rehab are ways of coping with stress, ways of verbalizing things, learning to discuss my feelings, the pressures going on in my life, learning to speak up, learning to be open and honest about what I'm feeling. That nobody can criticize me for what I feel. My opinions are one thing, but my feelings are another. And this was a big step for me in my own recovery, is to realize that it gave me confidence, that I felt more comfortable speaking about my problems with other people, and sometimes total strangers. But it turns out that most of us are feeling the same thing. So when a person is expressing what they're feeling, most people can relate to it. So it becomes a very helpful solution, and this also helps long-term with the person's happiness. Other things that are learned in rehab are to be mindful, to be aware of my own feelings, to be mindful of others, being aware of their emotions, listening better to others. In rehab, learning to meditate, how to sleep better at night by not ruminating or thinking about all the issues going on in my daily life, how to break down my stressors into things that I can and cannot control, and dismissing the latter. Dealing with stress is a big one, and not relying on my drug of choice is the way to not relying on my drug of choice and instead using the tools that I learned in rehab is how the best way to go in this situation. So coping with stress, breaking it down into what I can and cannot control, dismissing the latter, and then listing out the problems I have and focusing on one problem at a time. Other things are to enjoy things in life, to have some balance in life, to engage in recreational activities or entertaining activities. Being involved with other people is another one. Addiction or substance abuse is an illness of isolation, whereas recovery is all about connection with other people. So this is where long-term treatment is important, where a person can get out of their shell and be involved with other people. Once they're discharged from a rehab, or even if they never went to an inpatient, if they're an outpatient treatment, or even if it's not even treatment at all, it's important that a person gets connected with other people, and this can be with peer help groups like 12-step meetings, or rational recovery, or smart recovery. Getting involved in community activities, volunteering, for example. These are important things to ensure an enduring recovery. Another thing is that I have one-on-one time with my own addiction medicine doctor. I spend once a month with him. Earlier on in my recovery, it would be more like twice a month. I would also see my family doctor on a regular basis, and I also engage in a strong aftercare treatment. So aftercare means after treatment, whether it's inpatient in rehab or outpatient rehab. And aftercare is a group of people who are in a similar situation, that they're in recovery from whatever substance of abuse they were using before. And we all have similar problems, and it's good to be involved in this small community as well. So long-term treatment involves, in the short term, abstaining from the drug of choice and sometimes getting on replacement medications over the short term. Sometimes people wean quickly off of these, sometimes it's rapidly weaned. Slow wean is probably the best thing for most people. This is a gentle wean off the drug of choice. And then the longer-term treatment itself is actually rehab, whether they're inpatient or outpatient, followed up by aftercare, where they're involved in the community with like-minded individuals who are going through recovery, seeing their family doctor and perhaps their addiction treatment counselor or addictions medicine specialist on a regular basis, and to be involved in the community, to engage in recreational activities and learn how to discuss their feelings candidly with their close ones, their loved ones. These are the things that help ensure an enduring recovery.